Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's tech tip. Today's topic is how to add clips to your panel. We're going to go over two techniques. One technique is going to be using the panel properties, and the other technique is going to be using markers. Specifically marker lines. So first of all, to add clips to your panel, you need to add horizontals. I have a panel over here with a specific marker being used. For the opening, let's select one member of the panel. Go to Properties, and let's talk about the first technique. I'm in the Panel Properties. We need to click on the Miscellaneous tab. And we're going to use the Horizontal tool. So we click here on Edit and we get this dialog box. We're going to be using horizontals and not diagonals for today. We're going to offset from start, which is E1, which stands for N1. We're going to reference it to the end. So, from E1 to E2. And by the way, you can start and stop from any one of these members to any one of these members over here. And this over here is going to populate according to your panel. So it might look different every time. And this is gonna depend on how your panel looks like and which members it's composed of. You can create an angle. I'm going to keep it at 0. The vertical justification, I'm going to keep it at top, but you can make it bottom or center. The lateral justification, I'm going to make it structural center line. The lateral offset is going to be 0. I haven't added any extensions. The family that I'm going to be using for today is going to be a 600 T1 253333. You can use other options. You would have to pick them here from this drop-down, and they have to be already loaded into your project. You can split horizontal studs, and you can add a stagger if you like. I'm going to add a stagger, and I'm going to make this 3 inches. This is where we would insert clips. So let's click over here and set some clip settings. You can, by the way, stop at kings or continue through openings. Let's actually stop at kings and let's set up our configurations. So we click over here. And then we go to this other dialog box. And this is where we actually set up our clips. Where it says blocking clip settings. Here, where it says connecting members, we're connecting C studs. We pick the connecting profile over here from this drop down. We're going to be connecting the hard side first. And then we're going to be connecting the open side. And you'll notice whenever I choose one of them, the image here is going to populate accordingly. Let's start with the first one. And this is where we specify the connector. The family I'm using is the default out-of-the-box option. The attachment side is going to be to the hard side. If I click on open side, this is where we would be attaching it. So let's just keep it here. You can offset from face right now. I'm going to keep it at 0 and you can create a clip rotation. Here is where we choose the member types that we want to apply clips to. I'm going to choose the following. So I'm going to click, and then use Control on my keyboard to pick the members that I want to have clips added to. I'm just going to skip the jacks. And then when we're done, we have to click on Add. And then we're going to see this row populate over here. The next one I'm going to use is open side to hard side. Keep the same settings. I just want to check that everything's okay. And then I'm gonna click Add again. This will make sure that I'm adding on one side. And here I'm adding on the other side of the stud. And I'm going to click on OK. Over here where it says horizontal, You can specify by offset or by spacing. When I click on spacing, you'll notice that this deactivates, and this gets activated. And when I click on offsets, this gets deactivated and I can use this portion over here. I can specify the number of horizontals I want. Let's keep it simple and just add one horizontal. You can enter a number over here for the height of the horizontal, or you can just simply click on ratio, and it's just going to divide it up for you. We're not going to be covering punching holes for today. And now that we're done, you can, by the way, add horizontal extensions. I'm not going to do that for now, but if you click over here, you can enter the number of your choice for typical studs and cribbles. And now that we're done, we just have to remember that we have to click on Add. You can create a name. If you just simply click on Add, MWF will create a name for you. It's going to be horizontal 0. Let's hit close. And let's hit OK and see the results. So this is the result that we get. We can clean this up a little bit by clicking on the properties of the panel, going to Miscellaneous. Let's go to Cut Box over here. Horizontals, and this is where you can control how you want your horizontals to connect. The default is set to horizontal flush outer. I'm going to use that horizontal flush middle, so I'm just going to double-click. This gets highlighted in red, which means it's activated. I'll hit close and hit OK. And this is how it would look. And that covers the first technique. Let's use this panel over here to talk about the second technique that we're going to use, which is going to be going to the markers, marker tools, and creating marker lines. We're going to be creating some horizontal marker lines, so we have to click on this tick to activate the commands. You have the option to convert existing model lines, but since I'm not using this option, I'm just going to use equal spacing with a max distance. Or you can use regular spacing. Specify a specific number of lines from over here. Or you could just define a spacing and a first offset from either the top or from the bottom. You can use whichever option you like. I'm going to use this one over here. Let's make this 3 feet. And then before we hit OK, what you can do is you can assign a stud pack, whole series blocking, or telescopic if you're using a specific Howick machine. But for now, let's just hit OK. And these are the marker lines that we have just created. If you're like me and you haven't specified your settings yet, you can select this line over here. Go to MWF, hit Properties, and this is where you can manage your blocking. If you already had blocking, you can see it from this drop-down. And from there you can manage your blocking settings. Right now, if I click on blocking, I don't have any options. That's why it says none, so I'm going to click on Manage. Then, I can get the dialog box where I can manage blocking configurations. Let's give this a name, HRZ1. Let's use a specific family type of our choice. I'm going to use this one over here. The member designation is going to be HB horizontal stud. If you wanted to change that, you can choose an option from this drop-down. The line style right now is white lines. I'm going to keep it as is. The positioning right now is 0. I'm going to switch this to 270. The vertical justification can be top, middle, or bottom, and you can add an offset. The lateral justification can be interior, center, or exterior, and you can add an offset and member. You can force end of line, stop at nearest intersected member, extend to closest member after end of line. And this is in the case that you want to control where the horizontal command is going to stop. I'm going to force end of line. You can split at members. I'm going to make the stagger 3 inches. And I'm going to select everything on this list, because I want anything here to be able to split the horizontal. Let's insert clips. Let's add the same configurations we did before, because this is completely identical. So hard side is going to use the following member types. I'm going to hit Ctrl on my keyboard to select everything, add them, and select open side. Just gonna click here and check that everything is okay, and click on add, and then OK. And you can set cutbacks from over here. You need to click on add, and make sure that everything is set up the way you want. If you make changes, you can click on update. You can import and export these settings, and you can delete them. You can punch holes, but this is not going to be part of our scope for today, so let's hit OK. And then you can pick the horizontal blocking that we just created and hit OK. We won't see anything yet until we regenerate the panel. And this is the result that we get. And these are the clips that we just added, and the horizontals that we just added. This concludes this week's tech tip. I hope you found it useful, and we'll see you next week.